Okay, I think I will slowly but surely get started. So we are missing Katie, Samantha, and Selena. Yes. But Jessica, that I finally remember, and Jacqueline are here. Okay. Let's see here. And Nancy and Rachel are here, but Maria are missing, right? Okay. Andrea, Yanira, Jeffrey, all here. Do you like Jeffrey or Jeff? Huh? Jeff, okay. And then Zach, Haley, Hyder, Jacqueline. So we're missing Nathan, right? Huh? For what job? Cool. And Anthony, Vanessa, not Haley, Mariah. Marie's here now. And it's not Oscar, it's David, right? Huh? Daniel. Start with a D, though. I'm getting there, sorry. Okay, so you're all here. I don't see Tongue, and I don't see... There's Esperanza. There's Tongue. On time. So we're just missing, hang on, emphasis on the first syllable, Dahi, right? Okay. And then Nalita, Marissa, Amanda? Well, yeah, I know, but Marissa, Amanda, Nalita. But I got Amanda right, though, right? I said it in the wrong order, but I knew, I promise you, in my head, I knew the correct difference. And then Anna, Maria, Esperanza. That means we're missing, wait. Starts with an M? Ah, damn. Maddie, that's it. And then, so we are just missing Melissa here, right? Marlise, what? Damn it. And then Myra, Nancy, Richard, right? And Jeanette. I'm sorry, Jeanette. And then Lily and Gabrielle. So that means we're missing Lafpreet, Bagat, and EO. And then crap. Like Macy and Mert. Mert. So I know there's an M, and I never like get Macy yet. And then Natasha, I keep thinking the letter V because this Vaught was your last name, and then John. So I'm getting there. I promise. I will keep going as fast as I can with memorizing, and then I'll pass this around so that we eventually catch people that came in late. Cool. So the whole I blocked off the whole day today just for Globus. So first of all, I've started going through and checking off who do I have, who am I connected to on LinkedIn, who do I have professional development plan by. I'm getting there. I haven't quite got them all listed yet, but I hope by the end of the afternoon or sometime by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll have the grade center updated. So sorry to make you guys wait, but I've front loaded the course so that a lot of the stuff that I need to help you guys to have the best professional product possible at the end of the course, I already have in my hands now. So I promise I will get around to crediting all those and crediting the extra credit as well. So hopefully that'll all be updated by tomorrow, and then I can keep with it a little bit. Anna, did you type in your student ID number? That's fine. Keep that as your I have a list of all the student ID numbers. I just haven't typed them in yet. So if by Friday you don't see extra credit for yourself, send me that thing. But it should be fine. I just haven't gone through and typed it all in yet. So I will get all that up to date soon. But I believe right now you're the only person, because you added a little late, that I didn't give credit for the background and goals email. So in order to give you credit for that, please go into the spreadsheet and fill it out.
I did fill it out.
Did you?
Yeah, it was highlighted in red, but I filled it out.
Okay, cool. I'll go back and check again. I haven't looked in a little while. Which brings me to, hang on. Forgot filled out spreadsheet. Which brings me to the next point about the spreadsheet, which is some of you Anna, you have an amazingly talented family. Your email to me about comparing Lufthansa and United. Various folks in here have emailed me about, I'd like to switch my focus, or you hadn't decided on the focus and then you decided on it. I haven't gone in and updated the spreadsheet. So please, if eventually that'll get done, because when you send me your drafts at the end of this weekend, I'll see on the draft what companies you're focusing on. If you get a chance, just for my information, update your case focus in the spreadsheet in Google Drive. If not, there's no points attached to it. It just helps me to remember what everybody's focusing on. Otherwise, eventually that'll get caught by what you do on Sunday. So that's it for new announcements, except the reminder that the game inputs. Oh, look. It would help if I turned that on, wouldn't it? Except for the fact that the game inputs will reset at 11:59 p.m. tonight. So if your group has not printed out what your decisions were, so you can kind of remember, okay, we put this in and this worked or that didn't work, you might want to make sure to print them out before the end of the day. And if you wanted to get a head start on next year's decisions, don't type them in until tomorrow morning at 12:01 a.m. because they'll get erased tonight at 11:59. There's no, I don't know how in the system to I don't think there is an option in the software to tell it, please don't erase these because it's new entries, the system just goes in and like resets everything at midnight tonight. So don't input your new decisions yet, unless you just really want to like do it twice, because it'll get wiped out at midnight. So other than that, that's yes, Jeff.
Do you mean for year 6 or for year 7?
Everyone who's not Jeff, speak more quietly, and Jeff, say that again.
Do you mean for year 6 or for year 7? Year 6 is going to reset, but then we go in and read.
Yeah, actually, it'll still say year 6 next year. So the way the software works,
So it's just a practice.
huh?
Last week's was just practice. What's
So this is
practice?
practice.
Yeah. So
So this still sticks.
what we're going to go over today was practice. Next week, when it resets tonight, it'll still say year 6. So it's basically just resetting the same settings that you like took on when you did the practice. So we'll start with the real year 6 this week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. So let me open up Globus. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do this. What I usually do, and I try to go through a little bit of discussion each week ongoing. I think I put in the syllabus that like each Monday from here on out, I'll talk a little bit about Globus, either before or after the lecture. So yeah, Globus discussion, I've got it in there for basically every year up through when you do the strategic plan. So year 6, year 7. So next week, week after, I will like comment a little bit on Globus again at the beginning of the week. And then anything that I'm not able to cover, your group is welcome to come to my office hours or email me and ask me additional questions if you have questions or problems. Basically what I'm going to do is, what I do each week is I start with the team that was last and help them first. So the teams that did the best usually don't end up getting any comments from me during class because you're already doing well, and you probably don't want me to like give away what your settings are. So I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. We'll see what time it is by the time I get done making comments for Group C. You guys. And then, I'll just keep going from there, okay? So, don't enable. Yes.
Just to clarify, it was like miscommunication.
Haley, right?
Yeah, we saved over each other's work, so when stuff got changed, that's why we did.
That's okay. I mean, it's practice anyway. So, honestly, like, pedagogically, you guys know the word pedagogically? Pedagogical? It's like anything to do with how you teach is pedagogy. So pedagogically, you help me because there's so many inadvertent mistakes that it makes it easy for me to point out what not to do. And it's practice anyway, so don't worry about it. I'm going to use your guy, even if it was a mistake. It's a good opportunity for me to say what not to do. So I'm going to start by, wait, we don't want A, we want C. And you guys already made new changes, right?
Yeah.
I can see that. So, cool, except that doesn't let me do my, well, no, it's okay. It just,
Taking the pictures.
huh?
We've already taken pictures of it. If you want to-
No, that's cool. So let me set this back to where you had it. So this was 16.
That's
Huh?
I thought we were doing year 6.
Yeah. Basically, it says year 7 right now because it's waiting for the next decisions. As soon as tonight comes, the game will reset itself and everything will say year 6 again, but it won't say practice. Make sense? Okay, so So I'm not going to do much with your multi-featured stuff. Looked okay, except for this. But let me, first of all, this is how they were originally before you guys changed them. So if I go into, I'm actually going to show you guys. I'm going to show you what. Close that. Instead of staying here, I'm going to show you what my report looks like each week. So you'll actually be able to see everybody's inputs right now. I may actually say each year I save some information. I may actually save this as a PDF and upload it to Blackboard so you can actually see the teams that did better in the practice round, what were their numbers, and the teams that did worse, what were their numbers. So if you look, across the board, L actually doesn't exist. I need to delete that. That's from the system. Although it's somewhat embarrassing to note that only 4 of the teams did better than not changing any of the inputs whatsoever. The other 7 did worse by changing things. But that's okay because it's the first time. That's why we're doing a practice. So. When I look at things each week, I usually start by looking at this, and I just eyeball what seems out of place with the other things. So first of all, that 16 is way higher than everybody else on image resolution. All of you can't see what the rest of the numbers are, but you can see. You can see in the Globus Statistical Review, if you go in, like I told you last Wednesday, if you go into production benchmarks, you can see what the low and the high and the average are. So this is actually for the last year. So you can see that your guys' 16 was by far and away the highest image resolution. You can't. You can see lens quality in LCD. You can't actually see the numbers the same way here. It's dollars instead of number of features, but you can sort of equate. If your number is high for core components, brand specific, special utility. So if we go back to So if we go back here, these are these 4 things together, brand specific components. So if you add those 4 numbers together, 16, 20, 27, that should be 33. Is that right? Am I counting correctly? Yeah, 33. So if we go back to, so this line for brand specific components, that adds up the numbers of those 4, these. So these 4 things here, your imaging device, camera controls, ergonomics, and accessories, if you add all those up together, that's the number that you see on brand-specific components here. So you don't know which ones are higher and lower in the other groups, but you know in total your brand-specific components are the highest of the whole game. So which is not necessarily good nor bad, but the biggest problem, if we go back to, and then actually before I forget, your number of special utility features. Actually, it's again, this is a number of features rather than a dollar amount, but you have 5 here. Group F has 6. If we go back, so you're on the high end. So you had 5, F had 6, and H had 5, J had 5, but you're sort of slightly higher than the average. But that's in number of features, not in dollars. If you go here, this will show, like, if this were a normal year, it'll show you on the edge here what your company's number was. So you won't see a number, you'll see a dollar amount. But if your dollar amount is high here, that means your number of special utility features is too high. Does that make sense? Marissa.
We only get the industry averages and the local highs after Sunday.
Yes.
So we don't get the.
It's always a year behind. So which is kind of a reality in the real world. I mean, everybody, all companies in the world, big and small, are basically trying to make predictions about the future based on information from the past. So in the real world, you would also be making estimates about the future based on what you know about last year and the last 10 years and what the trends are, and then you do some voodoo and like throw out the dice on the floor and see what they add up to, and then you make a prediction. But you're always basing money on the past. However, because this is practice, right now, normally after each year, you can see what your company's numbers were in red on the side here. For the practice round, it doesn't show that. But again, those will be your company's numbers from the prior year. Make sense? Other questions about what I was going over before I keep going? Okay, so your number of models, which doesn't directly show up here, was also a bit high, but there's no way you can actually see that, unfortunately, in the reports. So long story short, you're spending a lot of money on in that situation, Group C, even though it was a mistake, was spending a ton of money on the cost of the components of making the camera. So the actual raw materials and supplies and the bill that you get from the software programming company that programs the screens and the company that provides the actual video display, all of those costs are higher than most of the other teams. However, that's all your entry level numbers there. However, if you look down here at your price is at 160, which is a little on the low end, actually. I mean, I know that was a mistake, but basically the reason you're in last place is because you're spending a crap load of money on producing the camera, and then you're selling it for not much more than it cost you to produce it. So you're not making enough profit. That it's not such. When I looked at your multi-featured camera, I just eyeballed it, and it seems like most of your numbers here are in the middle. They're not the highest or the lowest. And then I look down at your price for multi-featured, and it's also kind of in the middle. So as the game goes on and you fix the bigger problems, then you can start to tweak things that are smaller. So maybe there's ways that you could do the multi-featured more efficiently, but that didn't stick out to me right now. What I did notice, and this goes for all of the groups, 2 million, 3 million, 2 million, 6, 4 million, and then again down here for multi-featured, 4 million, 5 million. That's way too little in R&D. And 0 for company H, who's H? Nice job trying to save money. Do it later in the game. Like, if you're like, I would suggest that everybody max out R&D and spend 10 million on it. Honestly, so everybody's like 2, 3. This should be 10,000. If for some reason your company's having other problems with profit margin and so forth, you may have to cut that down so that you're not losing money. But in general, R&D, and it's the same way in real life, like you invest in R&D and it has a cumulative effect, and it has an effect in the future. So if you invest in R&D now, it's going to basically, in this game, if you invest in R&D now, it's going to make your cost per camera to produce lower. Even if you have 10 megapixels here instead of 9 or 7, it'll be the same price. It'll be the same cost for you to produce at 10 megapixels as it would be for some other team to produce at 9 who hadn't invested in much in R&D. Does that make sense? But you only see the effect a year, 2 years later, and there's actually a cumulative number for R&D. So I think if you go into the statistical review, no, it's not here. There's another place where you can actually see cumulative amounts spent on R&D. And I'm not sure where it is right now, but basically, if you invest 10 million this year and then 10 million the next year and then 10 million the third year, the total amount that you invest in R&D is 30 million. Like if another firm did like 5 million, 10 million, that's 20 million. So even though they invested the same amount in like the third year of the game, they're 10 million behind in total. So if you possibly can, all of the companies in here should invest a lot more in R&D, both for entry level and for multi-featured. Make sense? Okay. Moving on. So that's the biggest thing I noticed about Group C. And like once I get done, I'm just going to go through and comment on everything for Group C. And honestly, it's just kind of an accident. It's literally an accident that they had the worst score. So the lessons that I'm teaching here, even if you are not Group C, they pretty much are valid for all the rest of the groups. So once I get done going through all of Group C, I'll keep going, and eventually I'll stop because we've covered all the points, and I'll just let you guys tell me whether you want me to go over anything else that I haven't yet. So maybe we'll get done a little early. So that's the biggest thing that stood out to me about production costs and R&D. Multi-featured, except for the fact that I think that Group C invested too little in R&D. Otherwise, nothing really stood out to me as particularly problematic in the multi-featured section. Down here in your marketing decisions, so the number of chains, retailers, and camera shops, I'll get back to that later. Like, you have to make sure that you maximize that each year, but there's only a certain number there's only a certain number available to you, and that's based on how much in demand your camera was the year before. So if you had a really cool camera the year before, it had a good price combination compared with the features, more stores will want your camera. But that's all based on what you did last year. It's not a marketing decision as much as it is a production decision. Even though it's listed under marketing, before you go in and maximize your production, you have to make sure that you've actually increased your number of increased your number of stores to the maximum. Yes.
So am I going to see an increase or a decrease depending on our sales last year, if it's on demand, like our product? So it would be,
Yeah, but it's not necessarily just how much you sold. Like, you may, kind of.
It's on demand. Like if the stores don't want your product, then it's gonna have a lower amount that you could produce. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So it'll go up and down.
Yes, I should say it is relatively related to the number of units you sold.
Yeah.
It's not related to your total revenue, because
Demand.
like a lot of times there'll be demand because I bet there's a whole lot of demand for Group C's camera because the way that the numbers ended up, they're like giving away iPhone 6s for $50 basically. So obviously all the stores want an iPhone 6 for $50. That's awesome. But so the demand will go up, but
They're losing money.
the next year after that it'll go back down because they're losing money and actually they're still making money but just not very much. None of the groups in here lost money this year. There's usually a couple years where at least one or two groups lose money, but in the practice round nobody did, but they made the least profit. So yes, the reason it's so much in demand is because they're offering a really expensive camera for a really low price. So the total number of units sold is somewhat of an indicator, but the total revenue is not because the price is different. And then it'll change each year. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, there's two numbers here that I did want to point out. First of all, in general for all the groups, it varies each game, but I think you should plan on like investing triple digits in or four digits here in advertising rather than 3. Like it's actually multiplied by 3 more zeros. So I would say that a normal team with a sort of average price and an average like level of features should be advertising between $1 million and $1.5 million. So that would be 1,000 or 1,500. If you have a really high quality camera, so you have like the best quality camera in the game, like Group C does, you can get away with spending less. But I still wouldn't spend 100. I'd spend more like 5, 6. So I still think your numbers here for North America and Europe, Africa are low. I noticed that you did in Latin America and Asia Pacific, you spent more. When I started using this game like 4 years ago, I didn't know any of the details either. I'm still learning things each year. Theoretically, you can maximize things by spending more on advertising in one country and less on advertising in another. In general, I can't tell you what works better and worse there. So superstitiously, I always think if I see something below 500, it's probably too low. And if I see something above, like, I'll get back to you in 1 second. If I see something above 2,500 or 3,000, so which basically is 2.5 or 3 million, it's probably too high. And if I can, like, use the board for a second, the investment in advertising, like, if this is like sales and this is advertising dollars, like the difference between, like, if 100 is here and 100 is here and 500 is here, so 100 is that much sales and 500 is that much sales. So you just invested 400,000 a quarter more and you blew it out with like tripling your sales. But if you're already at, like, so this is what, 100, 500, if you're this, we'll call this 1,000. I don't know exactly where it levels off, but the difference between 1,000 and 2,000 is going to be like that much additional sales. But the difference between 100 and 500 is that much. Make sense? And eventually you're going to go from like 2 to 3, and you maybe sold like 10 more units. So it's not worth it anymore to spend more on advertising. Yanira, what was your question?
Well, I was just going to say, from like, because you know how different markets will demand different amounts of cameras. So, are you saying that it doesn't matter if we like have different amounts in marketing for different countries? Because some countries would not care to have that much marketing since you're already getting more demand from it. But you probably focus on the weaker countries that are doing lower in sales to put in your marketing.
Yes, theoretically.
But have you ever, but in the game, have you seen a difference if you do that strategy? Because realistically, you would do that, but I don't know in the game. You would.
I have yet to get to a point where a group has no other problems, and we can just tweak with those numbers and see what happens. Like, there's always another bigger problem that gets in the way of that making a difference. Does that make sense? But theoretically, if you have more sales in a certain country, or in this case, it's really regions, if you have a certain level, if you have more sales in a certain region, that means that more consumers in that region know your brand. So you could theoretically get away with less advertising in that market because people already know you. However, like, it's not just about brand recognition. It's about telling people, there's a new product or, there's an offer going on. So it still helps to invest more in advertising, but theoretically, maybe your optimum level is slightly less in a market where you're like more well-known than in a market where you don't have as high sales. Make sense? Other questions? Okay, so yes, Marissa.
Like on your research,
Did the two of you coordinate before to be like the only people in the class asking questions, one on each side of the room?
no, we just were looking at this before.
Go ahead.
So it says like if you want to advertise more or lower than the industry average, where do you find the industry average? Is it already set to it?
No, but if you go to the administrator's report, so there's two things that you guys have access to. If you go into your decision screen, you'll see a little folder for Globus Statistical Review, and you'll see a little folder for administrator's report.
Okay.
The administrator's report, competitive intelligence report. Strike that. Administrator's report is mine. Competitive intelligence report is the one you want, okay? If you go to quarterly snapshot, that'll show you the average advertising in the industry. Can you see that?
You said quarterly snapshot?
Yeah. So competitive intelligence reports, and then there's two folders, company analysis and quarterly snapshot. Go to the quarterly snapshot, and you can actually see industry averages for every single one of these things.
We were just throwing numbers up. We didn't know there was a certain
Yeah,
average.
that's why we do the practice round.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this pink column here for everyone, that'll show you what the industry average is for all the different numbers. So you'll see here, it doesn't show you the industry average for everything because it doesn't show you what the industry average is for your production costs. It does show you what the industry average is for your advertising stuff. So the production costs, you have to go to the Globus Statistical Review. For the marketing stuff, you see the averages here. Make sense?
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay. The other thing I wanted to point out about Group C, if I go back to the decision history here, you're investing $125,000 quarterly in technical support in North America, which is kind of on the low, a little on the low side compared to the rest of the teams. That's okay for where you guys are at right now because you're offering a really high quality camera. It stood out to me, but I think it's not a big problem for you based on the way the numbers were right there. The biggest problem is that you're not charging enough for the camera, or you're paying too much to produce it. But I wanted to point this out for all the teams in here. If you have a lower quality camera, if you invest less in R&D, if you pay your workers less and you invest less in worker training, you're going to have more technical support. So if you have a lower quality camera at a lower price, there's going to be more people who are dissatisfied. There's going to be more people that have bugs and problems. They're going to call in and they're going to want to return the camera. So if you spend more on technical support, it keeps people from complaining about your low quality camera. As long as they get technical support, then okay, I save money. I know it's a cheap camera, but at least I can call and get my problems answered. If it's a cheap camera and if it's a cheap camera, and like my favorite example, I love Skype, but you cannot talk to a real human being if you have a problem with Skype. Like, it's just not available. It bugs the crap out of me. Like, if I really want to try and solve like what's not working, that you cannot ask the question. It frustrates the crap out of me. There's not really another better competitor on the market, so they don't really have to deal with it right now. But if that were the case, if there were other companies that had as much of brand recognition and as good of features on their video conferencing as Skype, then Skype would lose a lot of customers because they do not have very good customer service. So the lower the quality camera, the more you want to invest in technical support. I would always be careful of making it less than 100 though, even if you're a high quality camera. And group H here, 1,000 is probably too high. I usually see these in the like 3 digits, not 4. Maybe, but I think that might be it's the same effect as what happens here. Eventually the technical support doesn't make any more difference. So I'm not sure where that happens, but I have rarely seen a team spend more than $1 million on that. So I didn't notice anything wrong per se with Group C's entries for your promotions. As the game goes on, I just wanted to point out to everybody, like when you first start out, there's certain things that make more of a difference than others. So the total cost of production for your camera and the price and the advertising, all things being equal, make a huge difference. After that, your technical support makes a difference. After that, your warranty makes a difference. And after that, your promotions make a difference. So the promotions are a finer like nuance, but I wanted to point out to everybody, once you've got everything else working, one way to differentiate yourself from the other companies and make better profits and sell more cameras is to play with these numbers here a bit. In the beginning, that's not going to be the biggest lever that changes things. Once you've got everything else working well, this is kind of fine-tuning here. So FYI for everybody. Same thing for multi-featured and promotions. So that's largely the observations that I had on the first 2 pages here for Group C. Same issue in the European market. Price way too low compared to the product that you're manufacturing. I think the advertising's a little low. I think your advertising is fine in Asia Pacific and Latin America because at least the way the camera is now, you've got a really high quality camera, so you don't need to advertise a whole lot. And the same thing goes for really cheap cameras, by the way. That's the other thing I wanted to show. If your group, in every class, there's always 1 or 2 groups that have the really high quality low-end camera and then the real high quality high-end camera. And then there's a couple groups that have the low quality, low cost low-end camera and the low quality, low cost high-end camera. So if you have a really low, cheap product or a really high quality product, you don't have to spend as much on advertising. If you're in the middle, then the way that you stand out from the crowd is to spend more on advertising. Make sense? So that I wanted to point out here. If you go in the reports that you all can see, again, if you go to the quarterly snapshot, you can see here what each and every one of the teams is doing for price, and you can basically see what if you go to the statistical review, you can at least see, actually this is something you can't see very well in the quarterly snapshot. So you can see, all things being equal, if you look and you know that your if you look at your production numbers and you can see that your group is higher than the average for megapixels, higher than the average for lens quality, you're higher than the average for brand-specific components, you can't see exactly what other teams are. You can't see exactly what other teams are doing high quality as well, but you can kind of guess by looking at the quarterly snapshot and looking at which ones have high prices, because if they have a high price, if they are leading the game and they have a high price, that probably means they also have a high quality, and vice versa. If they're leading the game, they have a low price, they probably have a low quality. And as things go on, like each week, as I'm giving it, I'll give advice specifically for the teams that are doing the worst. So you can't see this, but when I go in and look at things, if Group C were to have kept your camera in the same place, you're basically competing with Groups F and J. Where's F? F, and where's J? So basically, I can see right now, F has a higher, in general, they have a slightly higher quality camera, and J has a slightly higher quality entry-level camera. But so if you look now down to the prices, F's selling at 200, J's at 170. Who was the top team in the game? K. So F is actually towards the bottom. That may mean I have to go in and look at the details for you three, but it may actually be. Well, first of all, it looks like you're probably losing money here.
Or J.
Huh?
Or
J. Oh, sorry. Who's F? You guys. Sorry. I'll get back to J in a second. F. You might have problems here just looking at things. That's like way out of. That's way up high, but in general, like if nothing else, where's E? E's right ahead of you. So, like 200 might be. 200 is the very top end of entry level. Like I think you might actually be pricing yourself out of the market. So theoretically, you have a high quality camera and a high price, but eventually, like how many people in here have a Tesla car? How many people would like to have a Tesla car? Does anybody even know what they are?
Yeah.
Okay, you know, really? They're like super high quality and like, they're super like sporty and environmentally friendly cars. Okay, so how about like a Ferrari? I mean, people in here have a Ferrari, but like no, because they cost like $500,000. Okay, Andrea, you said that a Tesla would be nice, right? So, but you're the only one that raised their hand, basically because no one in here is like an independently wealthy millionaire right now that I know of, and most of you would rather spend your like leisure money on something else, not a like $300,000 car. So even though it's a cool car, it just costs too damn much. So there's a very few number of people that can afford it, and that may be part of the problem for Group F, is that eventually you're offering a Tesla, and even though it's really nice, there's like 10 people that can buy it. So your total revenues are really small because there's just not enough people that can buy it. That might be the problem. Anyway, pointing things out, going back to Group C, if you were to leave the features where they are, you're basically not competing. You're not competing with A, B, D, a little bit with E because they've got higher investment in brand-specific components. You're not really competing with H, I, and K. You're really competing with J, F, and yourselves. And then on the low end, in the other direction, like A, B, and D, A, B, D, G, and H are like competing for the low end of the market right now, and I, K, and E are kind of in the middle. You know, so as things go on, you want to pay attention to like where your price is in the averages versus where your price is compared to the other teams, and where your costs of production are in the averages. And whichever teams are doing more poorly, or if you simply want to, if you're doing well and you want to do even better, ask me. Like, I have these reports in front of me every week, and without telling you, okay, so who was, Group K was the top. So without actually going in and explaining to Group I, where was Group I? So second to last, who's Group I? You guys. So without telling you, okay, go in and, Group K has 10.5 megapixels, 3.0 by 4.5, 2 times resolution. I'm not going to tell you every number, but I might mention you might want to lower your LCD display a bit, because you're competing with K, and I'm not saying what they did, but you might want to bring it down a little bit. And that's the kind of advice that I would give, because I can see who you're competing against. And interestingly, K has a relatively K has a middle-of-the-road camera for entry level, but the lowest price in the game, which means they're selling a lot of cameras. But they're only investing $400 in R&D right now. Who's Group K? You may be fast out of the gate and eventually falter later on because you're not putting enough into R&D. So right now you have a higher profit margin than most of the rest of the teams, because you're not eating it up with R&D. But next year, Group I is going to be more efficient producing than you are, or they're going to make more improvement than you are. So each year, they offer a higher quality camera, and it costs them less to make. So eventually their cost will be the same as yours, and they'll have a higher quality camera.
So we should invest more each year on R&D.
Yes. Okay, so that was the point I wanted to make there. The other things that I noticed, going back to Group C as an example, nothing else stood out to me, but let me comment on a few things in the report here. So in the report, I can only see what your number of units shipped was. I can't see what the potential was that you could have shipped. But the next thing I'm going to do after this is go back into the decision screen, because if a lot of teams don't do as well as they could because they forget to go in and maximize their assembly after they made all the changes to the product features and the marketing. If you change the assembly before and then you go in and tweak something about the price or the advertising, or you change the product features, it's going to completely change how many units are demanded. So you want to make sure to do that after you've done. So always do the product decisions first, then the marketing decisions, then the assembly decisions. So I don't know, based on my report, if Group C's numbers are good or not. But I wanted to point out for everyone that it's something to be cognizant of each week. And there's two screens, one for entry level, one for multi-featured. You can't don't forget that there's two. And then there's also nothing that particularly stood out to me here. Group C is paying a bit higher wage increase from year 6 to year 7 compared to the average, but groups G and H are higher, and you're making a higher quality camera, so in some ways you can afford to pay a little bit more on wages, and otherwise you're not really out of the ballpark on any other numbers. So there was nothing here that stood out to me as bad. In general, for all the teams with training and productivity, I think $1,000 per PAT is a good number. If you invest less, I think it might be a problem. So Group H, Group K, Group B. It's nice that you're saving money right now. It may come back to haunt you, just like R&D. So I would invest more in the beginning and then cut it back. And then in general for all the teams, you don't want to be too much. You don't want to be too high or too low compared to the industry on your salaries. If you're too low, I have yet to see a strategy where like you can pay too much or too little and then change other elements in the game and maximize things. In general, if you're paying too little, your workers are demotivated. They have no desire to come to work each day. And instead of like, if I'm one worker and I'm getting paid like the industry average, I produce like, let's say 100 cameras a day. If I'm getting paid like 20% less than the industry average, like I'm completely demotivated. I don't want to show up. I hate my job, and I produce 60 cameras a day. You know, so even though I'm 20% below the industry average on salary, I'm producing 40% less, 60 cameras instead of 100. And on the other side, if I'm making 100 and if I'm making 120 times the industry average, I might produce. I'm happy, but you know, I'm not going to get any more by producing more cameras. So, you know, I'm happy and producing well, but maybe I produce 110 cameras instead of 120. So I produce 10 more cameras, but the company's paying me 20% more. So in general, you want to look each week and see how your company compares to the average, and don't be too high or too low. Okay? And in general, when you do change things about your compensation, I would suggest, so if for example, you decrease your wage increase, I would go in and perhaps increase attendance bonus just a little bit so that the workers feel like they're getting something rather than just having something taken away. So, but if you need to bring costs down, you know, maybe Group C goes from plus 3% to plus 1%, and you know, throw in an extra $10 per quarter in bonus. So it's not as much extra that you're paying in bonus, but at least the workers feel like they're not just getting things taken away without getting something back. So take away one cost, add a little bit in another place, but not as much cost as you took away. And those are the biggest things I wanted to say about employees and training, except for the fact that you also need to make sure that you have the right number of workers. So I can't tell here. It looks like, just from reading these numbers right here, it looks like you didn't hire too many workers. You probably have too few right now because you got all these units assembled at overtime, which is not surprising for Group C because they're giving away iPhone 6s for $50. So obviously everybody in the world wants you to produce more iPhone 6s at $50, so everybody can buy one at $50. There's a bunch of demand, and so you probably don't have enough workers right now because of that. But you don't want that many workers because each of the workers is producing a camera that you're almost losing money on. So I'll get back to that in a second. Bids for special orders. This is a feature in the game that I don't use. So I could use it in the future, but I never do that. So that means nothing to you guys. Corporate responsibility. There's nothing that stood out for me with Group C on that either. 2,000, so basically $2 million off the top for charity might hurt your profit margin a little bit, but you know, Group K gave $7 million, so that's certainly, huh?
They were generous with our money.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good right now because the combination of the combination of like costs that you had for your camera and price means that you sold a buttload of cameras, And then you've got all this profit, and you can give it to charity, and then people think you're awesome. You're like Patagonia, you know? People in here know the company Patagonia? Okay, so you're like awesome because, you know, you do good things for the environment and you make really cool clothes. So you guys make awesome cameras for a cheap price, and you also donate to, like, charity. So you're awesome in the minds of everybody in the public. Like, as things keep going and your efficiency gets less and other teams start doing better, your stockholders are not going to be so happy anymore because, like, they want profits. They don't, like, they're happy that you give some money to charity, but, you know, make that $2 million and give us the rest of the $5 million because we paid for stock. So it's good right now because you have the luxury to do it. It might be too high in the future, but nothing stood out to me about Group C that this was out of line. All things being equal, you don't want to skimp on energy efficiency. You don't really want to skimp on worker conditions. It is sometimes okay to not pay very much to charity, but the investments in energy efficiency and working conditions usually have a lot more benefit in the productivity of your workers than they do have a negative side on the costs. So, and then finally, finance and cash flows. There's nothing that stood out here to me in the numbers for Group C. I would have to look at them in the decision entries, which I'll do next. And then finally, I can see this better than I can see a better overview here than all of you can, but I'll go back to this when I go to the decision entries page. You can see here for each team, there's a projected performance. So based on all the entries that you made before, like, the game calculated everything, this is what you were supposed to make. So you're supposed to have $202 million in total revenue, $5 million in total profit, A- credit rating, etc. This is what you actually achieved, or Group C. And then you can see here there's a percent difference. The groups which are, I think less than 10%. It's a little bit more complicated. But you remember I said on Blackboard I posted a document that says bonus point calculations. Some of the groups, so what? Group K, Group A, Group G, Group F, J, and I all got bonus points. So F, J, I, K, I said, got one too. You'll notice here, like, all of your numbers are no, D is higher. So did D get one or not? Who's Group D? Did you guys get a bonus point? I don't think you did. No. So basically, I think everybody that was less than 5%, so you're within 5% of the actual performance. Oh, no. You get a bonus point if your predictions are close to the accurate of the actual performance. So you don't have as good of a you'll have the numbers here. Let me actually go from here now and go into the decision reports program. So I'll open up Group C again, and you have projected performance here. All you will see is what the game said your projected performance would be. So you could theoretically print this screen before the 11:59 at night on Sunday, and then afterwards you can look and see what the actual performance was, and that'll, like, show you the difference. But I have it's basically what's giving you a bonus point is whether these numbers were actually close to reality. And these numbers, like, it's very deceptive. So, like, long story short, if these numbers get a lot better, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do that much better. If these numbers look really bad, they're probably not going to be better just because like the game ran. So the upside of these numbers sometimes is deceiving. The downside, if these numbers are bad, you're probably going to do bad too. Like now, you may actually be very close to the reality of how bad you did, and then you still get a bonus point, even though you're last place. But basically, these predictions here on the upside of things can be very deceiving. So it's always frustrating for the groups that you make all the decision entries and things look great here, and then the game runs, and instead of an A minus, you got like a B minus. Well, what the hell happened? Like, it was supposed to be fine. But because all the rest of the teams made different decisions, these numbers are based on what all the teams did last year. So it's always going to change because all the teams in the class are changing their inputs each week. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me just show one more thing, and then basically everything I'm showing, even though I use Group C as the main example, the lessons go for everybody. So I'm going to show one more thing here, and then I'm going to, we usually go to 2:50, so figure 10 more minutes, maybe 15, and then if you don't have any other questions, we'll call it an early day. If specific groups have questions that I didn't cover because I just basically focused on Group C, then I can stay here and we can talk more. So I just want to show you one more thing. So if we go back and, I'm not going to change screens because it takes too much time, but basically the actual performance for Group C in the practice round before they changed their numbers was a B credit rating, 0.5 earnings per share, and 4.9% return on equity. Okay, and a 71 image rating. So that was what you produced based on the accident numbers. Okay, and then you went in and you changed the numbers to fix things. So it looks like your combination of features versus price is better now because it's predicting that you're going to have higher earnings per share, higher return on equity. Credit rating and image rating are calculated somewhat differently. So let me focus on the EPS and ROE numbers right now. Those numbers are better. That probably means that you got it right by moving down the cost of your features. So, but if you notice here, what I want to show is that, when you're trying to get things to be the best possible, unfortunately there's no substitute for time invested. Usually about halfway through the game, whatever team is despite all of my advice, they just suck. There's always a team in each class that's just stuck in last place, and they're trying hard. They just got unlucky. So about halfway through the game, I'll go in and I'll change all your decisions for you, and I'll explain to you what I did, and then you take back over and start doing it again. And hang on, Natasha.
Is there a way to go from the bottom to the top, instantly?
Huh?
Is there a way to go from the
No.
bottom to the top, quickly?
No. Well, let me say sort of. As the game goes on, the expectations from the investors and the way the game is scored, you want to grow your earnings and grow your stock price each year. So it's not just it's not based just from year to year. It's based on what was year one. So if your earnings were only 5% in year one, if your stock price was $40 in year one, and then it's 42 in year two, but the other teams are they go from 40 to 50 and then to 70. The longer the game goes on, it's harder and harder to make up the gap. So it's like being in a marathon. At the beginning of the marathon, everybody's at the same place. By the end, by the end, I keep pigging out too much late at night on the sofa, so this stays. But I've been walking a lot more than I used to. So my goal, as a side note here, I have set a goal for myself of actually walking a marathon per week. So 26 miles per week. And it's pretty easy to do. I did like a whole half marathon on one day. I walked all the way from Westchester, where my house is, to campus here. Did a loop around campus, like sat down in my chair at my desk just to because I could, and then I stood back up and I did the whole thing in reverse, and that's like 14 miles. So I could probably do the whole thing, but I'm walking at a little less than 4 miles an hour. The top marathon runners do it in 3 hours, a little less than 3 hours, a little more. By the time we get to mile 26. Let's see, 3 hours, 3 miles an hour. So I'm still I'm less than 10 miles down the marathon, and the leaders in the marathon are finishing. So at the beginning of the race, they're only a couple hundred yards ahead of me. But as the race goes on, I can't just turn on my afterburners at mile 26 and catch up. It's too late. Make sense?
Yeah.
So you'll see in the first couple years of the game big differences. As the game goes on, even when I go in and I help the last place team by changing all their inputs, they might move up from last place to third to last. And then then they may move up one more. But it's hard to go, as the game goes on, it's harder and harder to go up. It's not so hard to go down if you screw things up.
Can you go down faster?
Yes. If you totally screw things up, it is possible to go down. Although there is sort of a lingering halo effect. If your stock price was already at 200, and then you just tanked all the if you cranked up your cost to the ceiling and put your your price down to zero, it would definitely tank your numbers. But you don't just go from $200 stock price to 10 overnight. You probably go from 200 to 100. So you drop from the first place to the middle, but it's hard to drop from the first place to the last place overnight.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Unless it's year one, in which case could happen. Okay, I just want to, one more thing that I want to go through here. Other questions before I go on, besides Natasha? Okay, so it looks like you got this right, but when I was talking about changing inputs for the teams, there's really no substitute for just spending time. So if I'm trying to make your numbers even better here, I want to see if I can make your numbers better than $4 a share and 29% return on equity. So if I look at the average on brand specific, so now you're at what, $19 total for brand specific components. Oh look, now you can see that's it. Oh, that's why, because I went into it from my view rather than from your view. So you see here how company C's numbers are on the side here. So $18 on brand specific. So you're a little higher than average, but not the top. Excuse me. Brand specific for last year was 33, and now you're 19. What am I talking about? Now you're 19. So you're actually now you're a little lower than normal. Let's see what the average price quality rating was. So the average PQ rating was 2.5 stars, and you are 2.5 stars. So looks like the numbers are okay here for now. And then multi-featured 20, so 10, 12, 10, 10, and 21 up here and 10. And what does the rest of the market look like? 20. So I did 10, 10, 10, 12, right? So that's 42 more or less. You're a little bit lower than average there, and your average here lower than average here. So theoretically, your price for multi-featured should be a little bit lower than the industry average, and your price for entry level should be also a little bit lower than the industry average, based on like a ballpark eyeballing of everything. So if we go back to the decision inputs, and I would make that 10, but 9 is pretty close. It's fine. So if we now go to marketing, 160, 160. Okay. So first of all, what was the average price in the market last time? Average price for entry level in North America was 166. You're at 160. Pretty good. Just for the sake of playing with things, let me see if I could tweak it to 155. So here, first of all, that's 160 as it is now. And then multi-featured's 380, and the average price in the market for multi-featured was, oh, nope, competitive. Multi-featured North America, 405. So, yeah, I think your price for multi-featured is okay, and maybe your price for, you might be able to sell a few more cameras if you change your price for entry level. So, without doing the rest, and this is just for North America. Obviously, it's different for the other 4 markets. So if I go into marketing, right now, price in North America 160. I think your advertising's okay. I think your tech support might, yeah, I think it's okay because now you lowered the costs. So you've maxed all these numbers out. That's good. So now if we go down to entry level, as things stand right now, like demand is 43 and you're shipping a little bit more. So let's see what happens if we change the price to 155. Now it went up from what, 43 to 46? And so I think we can actually ship 10% more. So 46, call that 50. And my goal was to move things up. So this was 29.2 before, was it? And what was it, 4.12, or was it higher than that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's 4.12.
Okay, so by doing that, I actually made ROE a little bit worse, but I'm not done yet. So if we maximize all of these, call this 46, and maybe 102, and yeah, that's actually, it says 46 because it used to be higher. The game will, like, if you have a number in there that's left over from before and it's too high, the game will automatically reset it. Like if I go in and try and type 46 right now, 46 right now, no, it lets it go. But if I try to go in and type 50, you see it actually says that the maximum possible is 43. So because that number was already in there from before, it still stays there. It's a glitch in the software, but when the game runs, it'll only let you sell 43. Make sense? So this is about as good as you can do, and yeah, by changing those things, it didn't really change things that much. So maybe I go in and make this 158. So now we got to change all these numbers again. So this will be 48, 45 probably. 89 plus 9 is 98. And that'll probably end up being 42. So that moved up earnings per share just a little bit from 4.12 to 4.15. Didn't really change ROE very much, but you'll see every time you change these numbers, the expectations here change. And what I do for the worst placed teams when I go in and help, I start with the big things. So usually you're in last place because your costs are way out of line here, or your marketing numbers are wrong here. And I'll just go in and I'll start changing things. And once I find like numbers that seem to do better in product, then I'll go down to marketing and change those numbers until I can get the best numbers here possible. And then I'll go down and change the assembly. Then I'll tweak with the compensation and just go in that way. And I'll just keep playing with it. Sometimes I'll do all the changes down to the bottom, and it'll end up being 27 instead of 29. So, okay, all those changes didn't work. Let's go back to the beginning, change something else, and see if I can fix it again. And there's not really any substitute for your group just going in and spending the time. If you're lucky, you get the numbers right to begin with, and you're lucky. But when I go in and try and help solve problems, the only real way to do it is just go start from the top, like look at where everybody else's numbers are, and either go to the same thing that they are, or if you're noticing that, you're noticing that like the bottom of the market is here right now, and you're in the middle, and no matter what you do, like you're just kind of like performing badly in the middle of the market, maybe you go and change all your numbers drastically and go undercut everybody on cost and then undercut them on price. So I just keep doing changes here and then changes marketing, changes assembly until it gets better. Make sense? To show how numbers could increase more, right now you have a 6-month warranty. If I change that to 90 days, like I wouldn't recommend that right now because, not 90 days. If you change that to 3 years, 3 years, most of your assembly costs, most of your return costs, come at the end of the warranty period. So right now with 6 months, it means whoever's going to return cameras to your company is sending them back twice a year. So you're already seeing those costs in the current year's numbers. If you did a 3-year warranty, most of the people who are going to return the camera aren't going to return it until year 9. So if you do 3 years now, it'll bump up your numbers really big, but you'll see a cost that you have to pay for, and your numbers go down in year 9 because of it. But just to show how much the numbers can change, if I go from 6 months to 3 years, so that brought the numbers down a little bit because I'm going to end up paying more for the warranty costs. But if I then go into assembly, look at how much more people want. Like that was 44 before, it's 54 now because I changed the warranty. Everybody see that? So because I'm offering a bigger warranty, there's a lot more customers that want to buy. So now I could go up to 59 here probably. And this could be 55. That could be probably 119. And this could be 51. Maybe 52. Yeah. Now look, I got it up over 30%, and this is $4 instead of $2 per share. So in the early years of the game, one of the reasons why I said like warranty is something to deal with later is like you're going to end up having lower number. You're going to have a lower earning per share number in year 9, at least a little bit, because you end up having to pay the costs. Like everybody wants it now because they buy the camera this year and they can just sit around and like use it. It's kind of like Target, you can wait until, 90 days or 30 days to return things at Target? Anyone?
90.
Okay, so theoretically, if you really wanted to like milk the system, you could go buy a table at Target and use it in your house for like 89 days and then bring it back. And like you basically you got a free table. So everybody's going to buy that because I can take. There's no problem. I can take the table back like 3 months from now, and I can get my money back. So theoretically, you could just do that, and then a couple days later, go get a new table, and you can continue using like free tables from Target in your house for like a year before you have to pay for anything. So obviously it's going to be higher in the demand now, but there's going to be some people who actually return it at the end. So the end is not for 3 years instead of 3 months, so you're not going to see it until year 9. However, just to show you guys how much of a difference changing these numbers can make, in the short term, that almost doubled the earnings per share because there's so many more people that want to buy the camera with a longer warranty. Make sense? And you'll see the same effect if you change any of the numbers drastically. The reason I'm not changing any more of the production numbers is because I think Group C actually has them right now. At least as right as they can be until all the rest of the teams change things. And then you don't know whether it's the right number or not anymore. But I think you're much more in the ballpark than the accident that happened the first time. So anyway, let me go one more thing and we'll call it a day. Right now, looks like amount below. So you were a little bit above the industry average here, but now you're right at like the industry average. So I think compensation-wise, you're fine. If you had not changed your numbers, so did you change them based on what I said already?
Kind of, but it was more like.
You changed them before I said something. Okay, so yeah, you already anticipated what I would have suggested. You were a little high here, so you brought it back down. You could have also had a negative number here and seen that, you know what, like we're paying a little bit too little. So as long as that number is like, 1%, 2%, it's okay. If you start seeing that you're like 3's actually still in the ballpark. If you're like 5-6% higher or lower than the industry average, you probably are inefficient with what you're paying your workers and you need to change it. Otherwise, that looks okay. You'll notice here as well, though, basically, because of all the numbers that we changed, and specifically, I imagine this is the case right here because I went in and changed the warranty. So basically, because I increased the warranty, there's a whole bunch more people that want to buy the cameras. And because of that, you need to produce more cameras. And in order to produce more cameras, you have to hire more workers. So because I changed the number way up there for warranty, and then I changed the numbers for assembly, it trickles down, and now you need 104 workers. Probably before you... Here, let me go back and change it and see what happens. Do you? Yeah, actually, it's going to take too long to change all the numbers again, but it was not 104 before, I promise you. But now, what? Yeah, no, that's how many new ones you have to hire. So basically, it looks like it was probably 99 is what you needed. So basically, this first number here, for everybody, not just Group C, this first number is how many workers you need in order to produce whatever you've put in the assembly. This is how many you have. So some groups actually end up having too many workers, and they're basically sitting around with nothing to do. So you're paying them salary even though they're not doing anything. In the case of Group C, because we increased the warranty, that increases demand, and now they need 24 more workers. So they used to need 19 based on the changes they already made. Because I changed the warranty, they need even more. So that would then go up to 24. This is fine. This here, so we need 210, and we've only got 104, so we need 106. So that means we put that in. It's probably not going to let us do that. Yeah. So you can't raise more than 104. You can't raise more than 80% or so of your workers, or you can't fire more than 80%. So the highest you could change that is to 96. So we'll do that. And then here you've got 110 more than you need. So we'll lay off 96 again. See if we can lay off more. Cool. Okay, cool. It let us because we had so many, then it would let us lay off more. Anyway, then you go in, max these numbers out, so that could go up to 80 now. It's kind of superstition, like it only if you end up having more demand than you expected, is it important that these numbers are maxed out. If you don't have more demand than expected, then you're not going to have to use overtime. Corporate citizenship, I think you guys were okay with already. And then finance and cash flow. This is always the last thing you do. After you've fixed everything else, come down here, take a look at what the credit rating is, take a look at the ending cash balance. Like, do you have extra money available that you could use to pay down stock? If you do, let's throw so 16 plus 7 is 23, more or less. Yeah, it didn't. It changed things a little bit, but it didn't really change the credit rating. You're not issuing much dividend though, so what if we move this back down? Since that didn't make any difference, move that back down to 10,000, and actually move this down to 1,000. And here, let's offer 75 cents a share. And here we'll offer $1.50. Yep. And here 50 cents. And it changed the return. It changed the ROE and the earnings a bit. Didn't seem to make any difference in the credit rating. But at the very end, paying out more dividends sometimes will help these numbers. It definitely can help your stock price as well. If they're too high, lowering these numbers will help your credit rating. And then finally, if you were short on stock, if you were short on cash, you could offer more stock here. If you have too many shares out there, and normally, just like you wouldn't know this, but I think everybody starts with 10 million shares outstanding. So you've actually, I think you offered 100 shares of stock probably last time. I think you issued 100 shares. It's not very much, but you could also you're doing pretty well financially, so you could stand to repurchase shares because that's going to improve your earnings per share number. So if you have a lower number of shares, obviously it makes a higher earnings per share number. So if we go in here and buy back, it says that the maximum we could buy back is 234. So let's do that and see what happens. And then go back to 0. Yeah, so you see how by buying back those shares, it bumped up return on equity by another percentage point or so. That took a little longer than 10 minutes, but I wanted to show you guys how the trickle down happens in the decisions. So, if your numbers here are not looking good, you just have to keep going back up to the top and saying, okay, what could I change about my combination of product features so that I either spend less so that I can save costs, or I spend more so I can move up into a higher competition class and raise my price. And just keep tweaking it until you cascade down and see that the numbers are better. That's it. It's only a half an hour early instead of 45 minutes, but I'm done. If you make sure to send me give me the sheet here. And anybody that still has questions for your group, just come up and ask me. Have a good weekend, by the way. And Haley, FYI, all that stuff that I was doing, I didn't save it. I just closed it right now without saving it because I didn't want to some of it makes it look good now, but you may not want to change your warranty in this year. So I didn't. if you wanted my changes, I'm sorry, I just deleted them. But I didn't want you to be worried that I changed your numbers for good. They're right back where they were. Alexis.
These are the two firms that I was thinking of doing, and I was wondering if that was okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And then, what was the sections that are due for the case analysis? This
Management analysis tools.
So just that one?
Yeah, so the 3 that I went over in class on Monday, you just need to fill out the business plan, or the business model, managerial execution, and corporate responsibility measures.
Okay.
Those 3 underneath where it says management tools.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, who's next?
Our group just wanted to talk to you because we were
Can I?
second to last.
I will.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that there's not any simple, fast things, and then I'll go over that.
For the case analysis
Uh-huh.
paper, you said to do a major bank versus
Hang
a
on.
local bank.
Marie, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Say again.
For the case analysis, you said to do a major bank versus a local bank.
That'd be my suggestion. So you were interested in banking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you work for a bank right now?
No.
So, just off the top of my head, Rabobank is like a bank around here.
Oh, okay.
There is no Rabobank back east or whatever. I've never heard of Rabobank before I moved here. What is it? Kern Teachers Credit Union or whatever. Those are some other they're kind of like regional banks around here, and a bank like Bank of America or Chase. They got branches everywhere. So sometimes it's easy to find information on Chase or Bank of America. If you really are interested in going to banking, you may arguably have better career opportunities working at Current Teachers Credit Union or at Rabobank rather than Bank of America. You're just a number at Bank of America. You have a better path towards management at the smaller ones. So I would suggest that you choose a local one and then compare it with the big one. So the big one is easy to find information on. The local one is a little bit harder, but probably more relevant for your career. Make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Because I wanted to see if I could do them both on major banks since it would be easier to find them.
You can.
Oh, okay.
You can do it if you want. The reason I suggested a local bank is just because,
are trying to compete to get
I bet you
more sales and odds.
I bet you if we're talking about jobs available in the next year,
But I don't think it'll reflect
let's say
on ours
there's a lot of
until the
Chase
end of the
banks
week when
around the branch.
it's all,
Are there Bank of America branches around here?
Yeah.
I haven't seen very many. I've seen a lot of Chase branches.
We won't know.
So let's say there's
Trying to see what they're putting.
there's 5 jobs available in the next year at Chase, and
I don't know what direction
3 at Bank of America,
to. And then
and 2 at Rabobank, and 3 at Teachers Credit Union. But these jobs,
yeah, there we go.
for the next
Low.
5 years are going to pay
Price.
$50K per year.
Sell more.
$50K per year,
We should do that.
And this one may start at 50, but within 5 years it goes up to 100. So this is a better job. There's more of them here. So you choose.
Okay.
If you compare these two, if you compare these two, you're focusing on banks where if you do get a job, you probably won't move up as much. If you choose one of these, it's harder to find information.
Yeah, we can do that.
But if there is a job available and you get it, you might be glad that you focused on them because a couple of years from now you'll be making a lot more money.
Oh, okay.
Your choice. Either way, it's fine with
Maybe
me.
start off
Okay.
a little
Okay.
high
Thank you.
No problem.
high end.
Haley, you good?
Yeah, you just do me start.
Okay. Group
Images.
I, yes.
Yeah, why are we called images?
I just changed it because it started with
That's
I.
why.
Nobody. Oh, so that's weird.
Because of Marlies. Was that the only question? I
No.
imagine it wasn't.
No. So we are just wondering what we could do better because we kind of based it mostly, and now you told us that the investor expectations doesn't really matter because of what everybody else was doing.
Well, it does, but
Yeah.
just because it's good at first
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean it's going to stay that way.
Yeah.
If it's bad at first, it's probably going to stay bad.
So was our price just too low?
I don't know. Let's look. So
We thought by the way you were talking about this, that you seem to think that either a high end or a low end has the best chance of winning the game.
not necessarily. I mean, I've seen groups that are in the middle win the game too. But if you're in the middle, then like you have to
Be in the middle for
be
everything.
careful with your costs, make sure you're spending enough on advertising. Like there's just different problems that each of the three strategies has, like low, middle, and high. So based on like looking at this right now, and then, okay, so you're kind of on the high end here and in the middle on entry level. And then, okay, advertising, quarterly support, price, and then price here. Yeah. So I think your price for multi-featured may be okay for now. Wait and see. At least the price is in line with
That.
the price is in line with the where you stand in the market.
Okay.
So let's start by here. Crap. Forgot. I have to close one pop-up window before I can open another one. So here's your decision screens. So we'll leave that the way it is for now. But we'll increase your entry level price to more like 160. And then where, I forget actually, obviously anything we do now, remember, like it's going to get reset at midnight. But based on right now, like, and honestly, it, according to, like, you can't see this screen right now, but there's a place in your dashboard where it has exchange rates. Like, all of this goes out the window once the game resets, but based on where it stands right now, basically every place in the world is going to have inflation next year.
Okay.
No, excuse me. They all have deflation. So basically, all of the currencies in the world are going up in value, but the U.S. dollar is going up the most.
Yes, highest one.
So you're going to, theoretically, you want your price in North America to be lowest, and then Latin America will be next, Europe, Africa will be third, and the lowest price will be in Asia Pacific. But they're all going up, so don't worry too much. Just, you might want to have slight differences. So what we said, the lowest in North America? So let's leave that at let's call it 155, because I think you might be able to do better if you raise your price a little bit compared to what your quality level is. So make that 155. What did we say? Europe is third. So let me do in order. There's Latin America's next, so we'll make that 158. And then Europe was next, so we'll make that like 162. And make Asia Pacific 165. Advertising, because you're in the middle, I'd actually increase advertising all over the board. To start with, I just raise it to 1 million everywhere. Like, it may or may not, like, oh. Okay, so these, you also, you notice here how this number says 30 and that says 34?
We need to at
Change
least
34?
Yeah.
4 more?
So, I mean, it's not that hard to do. Just type whatever numbers in the right-hand side. The reason that's there is because it's easy to forget that from one year to the next, your demand changes. And if you don't, like, you can make as many, you can make the best camera you want. If you forget to ask the stores who wants to sell it, then you're not going to sell the camera. So that's here, not because it's rocket science to figure out the number, but because you have to always not forget to fix these numbers. So you got a little bit more demand than Asia Pacific, so we can raise those numbers. And a little bit more local camera shops in Latin America. So that's all that. I would actually make all your tech support numbers about, I don't know, 190 for now. You're in the middle of the pack, so that might be a little low, but I wouldn't go lower than 100, and I wouldn't go much higher than 250. So you had 250, that might have been okay, but let's make them all 190 right now and just see what happens. So superstition, but I actually would never have 0 promotions, at least have 1. We'll see if it makes any difference or not. So that's all that. Product, I think you're okay on the numbers there. So just interesting thing to note though, down here at the bottom, you see how it says total production cost? 111.55 and then 298.69. Like that's what it costs you per camera. So you don't want your price to be anywhere close to that number.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to have enough money to cover all your overhead costs. So there's no magic number, but like I try to be at least $20 or $30 over that if it's the low end. Maybe $20 over if you're the low end, and then if you're in the middle of the market, maybe more like 40 or 50 bucks over, like we just did right now.
Okay.
And then if you're the high end of the market, you could probably go even 60 or 70 above your cost. But like you probably don't want to get 60 or 70, maybe too much. I'm making these numbers up, but I know that you don't want to get within $10 or $20 of that for your price. Otherwise, you're not going to make any profit. And if your cost of production is like 100 and you're selling at 200, it might be too high. So just something to keep in mind. And the same thing for for multi-featured. Like look at what this number is, and you don't want to be anywhere within $40 of that, I'd say, because all the numbers are bigger here. Make sense? Okay, so now going forward, I think those numbers are fine. Actually, I would change these to. We might have to go back and change those again because it's going to cut into your. Profits. But you'll notice, like all the changes I've made right now are making these numbers go down. However, what we haven't done yet is look how much more demand there is because of the changes I made. So now, if I just, instead of trying to calculate what's 10% over, if I just go in and click match assembly to orders, like watch the numbers go back up again. And then same thing for multi-featured. And you can make those even better if you want to go in individually and like give 10% more. So 10% of 82 is 8, so you can probably move that up to 90. This can probably be 81 now. Let's see if it'll stay at 80. Yeah, 82 is the highest you can go there. And then here, 15, you could probably go up to 172 there. Now at 171. And this 67 plus 7, maybe 74 probably. Yeah. So you can continue raising the numbers a little bit if you just go in and take the time.
Okay.
But the easy way is to at least make sure to click these, because then you're not leaving any money on the table by accident. Then compensation, you're pretty close to the average, so I think you're fine here. 146, 115. So right now, you've got about 50 more workers than you need. However, because you changed the numbers, your demand is like going to go up probably. So you may not want to lay them off just yet.
Okay.
However, if I go in, let's just for So 140 minus 30, that's too much. Minus 30, right? 115, yeah. So if we take 30 away, then we got a few more than we need here, but it's just 5 more, so it's no big deal. Here we need a bunch more, always need more in the holidays, so let's add 107 there. And it won't let us do it, so 180 is the most we're allowed to add, because it's like 80% of 116.
Oh, okay.
So you can only grow by so much there. And then we'll subtract 80 again up here. You always want to make sure to subtract in the last quarter, because you're hiring a bunch of extra people in quarter 3, and if you don't lay them off in quarter 4, they become permanent employees, and then you have to pay severance. So, no, seriously, like, I'm not sure. How did the numbers change when I did that? Did they go down or up?
They went up.
Okay. They didn't go up as much as they could, though, because severance is 50% of your salary. So any workers, like any of these workers here, if you lay them off, like, you're actually only getting 50% of the savings. The rest of the 50% you'll only see in the next year, because if they're permanent workers, you have to pay them half of their salary for severance. If they're temps, so you hire 80 here for the holidays and then lay them off again in quarter 4, you don't have to pay severance. Make sense?
Yes.
And the same thing goes here. If we added 30 here and subtracted 30 here, as long as it's the next quarter, you don't have to pay the severance.
Oh, okay.
But eventually, even though you're paying severance, if you've got like 50 or 100 more workers than you need, you know, it's nice to like give jobs to everybody and their cousin, but you're not making any money.
Yeah.
So you need to cut some people, lay some people off. So anyway, there's that. I always just superstitiously max these numbers out, because if you happen to have more demand than you expected, it's a lot cheaper to pay overtime than it is to produce with a third party. Make sense? And then corporate citizenship, yeah, I think this is all fine. You'll see your image ratings way up, like, because you have a good camera at a good price, but also you're doing all this nice stuff in the community, so everybody thinks you're wonderful because you do all these green things and you care about your workers and you donate to charities. So I'd leave it for now, but if you're really hard up for profit, you could probably cut back on the supplier code of conduct, maybe bring back the green programs. I don't know. You can save a little money there, but I think you're fine right now because you're doing well, so it makes you look even better. And then finally here, yeah, you look great. I mean, honestly, here. So everything looks great here, except one of the reasons you got so much cash, and one of the reasons you probably didn't do as well as you could, because you issued 5 million shares last year. So unfortunately, it's going to take a while to fix that problem. I mean, it doesn't now because we reset the game. But you can always issue more shares than you can sell. Or you can always sell more than you can buy back. So you look here, the maximum you can buy back is 675. You got cash all over the place. I mean, you got like Google. Google has like a 4. I didn't get into this when I was doing the example of the case, but Google has a current ratio of 4, which basically means they have 4 times as much cash as they have bills. Who's the accounting people in here? None of you?
No.
Yeah. So does anybody know current ratio if I didn't explain it? That's what it is. Current ratio is basically all of the bills, all of the cash you have divided by all the bills you owe. And in the case of Google, like they have 4 times as much cash as they have bills. It's like Scrooge McDuck, you know, and like swimming in the money. And you're swimming in, look at all this. You got $62 million sitting around in cash, and 81 million by the end of the year. So definitely buy back shares. 675. Watch what that does to the numbers up there. So it brought it up to 280, like, because you're like, it's earnings per share. So if there's less shares, that numbers goes higher. So those are my suggestions.
Okay.
I wouldn't go with all the exact numbers because obviously everybody else is gonna reset.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Most of that is probably going to, like, I don't think any of the numbers that I mentioned are going to be too far out of the ballpark. 10.5 with this 10.5 with this number of features. Oh, wait. What? There. I cut into this a little bit, unfortunately, but you're going to be glad that you did it in the long term, as long as you're still meeting investor expectations. Like, these numbers seem to be normal. So I think you're okay there. You might be a little high on your multi-featured camera. It's hard to say. But wait and see.
Okay.
I think most of these numbers are okay numbers for week one. These will change entirely. You just have to make sure to, like, these are all based on the fact that you had last round, so they've all changed based on what the sales were last year. When we reset the game, just make sure after you've done these to go in and max that out. But none of these numbers mean anything right now. The only thing that means something is don't forget to come in here and max them out. And don't do that before you did these, because as soon as you change these, it changes this. And then, yeah, same thing. These numbers mean nothing. Just make sure to go back and change them. Well, they mean something, but
Yeah.
the numbers now don't mean anything because it'll all change once they reset the game. I think this is, honestly, like, having 1,000 here is important. These numbers will all be different once we reset the game. Basically, you'll have exactly the number of PATs you need when your game starts. You'll have to hire more here. Make sure you lay them off here.
Okay.
That's the only thing you have to remember here, and then max those out, whatever they are. Whatever these numbers are, I think you're okay there. Like, that's only going to make a difference in the next year because we're talking about how you're going to change it. So to start out with, everybody's at the industry average on salary in the first year. So that looks fine. I'd leave these numbers the way they are. And the finance and cash flow numbers are going to change depending on all the rest. So right now you have all this cash because you you sold all those shares.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have that cash once the game resets.
Yeah.
And please don't sell 5 million shares of stock again. You're gonna regret it for the next, like, 4 or 5 years of the game. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
Cool. Okay. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Haley, you still good? You need anything from me?
I have a question for the case now.
Uh-huh.
Managerial announcements due on Sunday, right?
The 3 management tools. So management analysis, it's business model, managerial execution, and corporate responsibility.
Okay, I'm just making sure that's true.
Got it.
Is there like a bunch of PowerPoints on there? Okay.
Just those 3.
Okay.
So basically, it's probably, I think it's going to be pages 2 through 5 of the template. Like, I think the first page just says summary and it's blank.
Yeah.
And then page 2. And I think I basically have 1 page per. Go down to page 2 and fill out those 3.
Okay, I couldn't bring it up because my computer deleted Word this morning.
Change it, and then I
Remember I
forgot
told
to
you that Google Drive said I had to do all those updates? Well, I did all those updates and then I guess Matt got like a new software and redid that, but then it deleted all my purchases. And then I went to re-download it and it says that I have like a personal use one and you can't download personal use like on the app. I have to like upgrade to like a different Word to be able to look it up on my computer or something.
So who's gonna do the changes?
Frustrating.
Yes.
So
It's the Mac versus PC.
I have a different problem, but at least to give you, like, company in your misery.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So all of the software on my laptop is like the licenses for it are from Cal State. But every 6 months or so, out of nowhere, like, my computer forgets that it has a license, and then it says, like, you only have 28 days left to register this. And it's registered. This is the 3rd time that I've entered it, and eventually I have to. I think like I have to tell the people in ITS, and then they like send out information on the server, and then as soon as I'm on the server again, it updates. But it's
No, and then
pain in the butt.
I called the gateway number, and then they said, oh, well, you're a student, so you should be able to get
Hey,
it.
hang on one second. I'm deleting everything that I just showed you guys. Okay, I'm closing it right now. I'm not deleting your like the changes I made. I'm going to close this, and I'm not going to save it. Okay. Okay. No problem. Okay, Haley, go ahead. Have a good weekend too. Cal State what?